the summit who are engaged elsewhere. As you are aware, Honorable Mudavadi is out of the country. Honorable Kalonzo is on another mission, and Honorable Raila Odinga is also on a different mission, but within the country.
By making courageous sacrifices, we have frequently gone on to much greater heights, as we did in the 2010 Constitution. Today, we are in one of those dark moments in the history of our nation once again. We are confronted with the layers upon layers of deceit and deception that we must not allow to reign. The latest of our many calamities occurred last month, when the presidential election was brazenly stolen in full view of Kenyans and the world. It was the third time in a row that the people's electoral will had been hijacked. It was indefensible the first time it was done in 2007. It was even more intolerable the second time in 2013. And when it happened again last month, the level of defeat and impunity soared into altogether uncharted realm. Amid such lawlessness came a courageous Supreme Court ruling that stunned the entire world, leave alone Kenya and Africa. Genocide, ethnic cleansing, and unlawful war aside, few crimes are worse than the theft of a people's right to elect a leader who will address their challenges and fulfill their hopes. But today, we are faced with a crisis of monumental proportions that goes well beyond electoral injustice. It is no longer about who is the rightful president of Kenya, or about the naked theft of a presidency. That is unacceptable enough. The tragedy we face today, and which we have to confront before it consumes us, is not that elections were stolen. It is that the IEBC, Jubilee, and a number of local and international actors are determined to repeat that fraud, and they want us to participate in it. Those who control the levers of power in Kenya do not merely want to govern us against our will for the next 5 years. No. They want to ensure they will retain power forever by all means. That is the entire purpose of acting President Uhuru Kenyatta's courageous abuse, threats, and utterly lawless actions in recent days, which are designed to rally his base and other power centers and assure them that power will always stay with them, not just till 2022, but forever. To this end, Jubilee is determined to take Kenyans to another charade of elections whose result will be the same as the one that has been nullified. One thing Jubilee and IBC refuse to disclose and address, even as they claim to be making changes to the electoral system, is the role the local telecommunication firms, particularly Safaricom, Kenya, played in the collaboration with Safaricom Morpho in manipulating the August elections in favor of Jubilee and Uhuru Kenyatta. It is a matter of public record that Safaricom was contracted by the IEBC to transmit election results from the KIEMS kits at the polling stations to the IEBC servers. All this data was to be conveyed via virtual private network, VPN, in order to ensure that there was no tampering of the results before reaching the servers. It has since come to our knowledge that one of these VPNs terminated at a cloud server registered in Spain but operated from France under the control of OTMOPO. Both VPNs were fully paid for by the IBC. However, the VPN Safaricom terminating locally was never set up. Consequently, results from the polling stations, KIEMS, the KIEMS kits, left the country but never found their way back to IBC. In other words, results which came from the polling stations were transmitted through IBC network to a server hosted in France, but they never came back to a server at Bomas of Kenya. None of the kits under Safaricom's network ever got their results onto the IBC's public work portal. This collusion between Safaricom, IBC, and Safaricom remains intact, and the firm is set to do the same thing again which it did in August. Ask yourself, what were the results which were being displayed on the television when the results coming from polling stations were terminating in France? We are also aware that between July 25th and July 27th, the period immediately prior to the disappearance of the acting IBC ICT director, Mr. Chris Musando, hundreds of KIEMS kits were stolen from the IBC and the information was shared with the Safaricom. On the election day, the stolen KIEMS kits were allowed to continue operating on the Safaricom network, even though the company, they were operating on the Safaricom network, even though the company management knew those kits were not under the control of the IBC. Safaricom allowed this illegality to go on and did not even care to report the various illegal activities of these KIEMS kits. You remember that there were several results coming from ungazetted polling stations. We have the names of the 6 individuals at Safaricom who had intimate knowledge of this conspiracy and either actively participated or concealed the same. That same team has been reassembled to do what they did back then. We have instructed our lawyers to initiate private prosecution of the officers under the Cybercrimes Act. Safaricom is yet to come out on this matter, even as it prepares to take Kenyans for another charade of elections. The sum total of these developments is that the messing up of Kenyan elections were deliberate acts of conspiracy, omission, and commission that are yet to be resolved. This conspiracy comes out at a time Jubilee has indicated that it will be passing new laws to make it impossible for the Supreme Court to nullify any future elections. The IEBC clearly has no intention of reforming itself into a credible electoral institution. It is far too beholden to Jubilee to begin that process. In any event, IEBC cannot begin the process of ensuring an honest election as long as those responsible for the irregularities and illegalities are still lurking in its corridors. IEBC has refused to dismiss or suspend them. That is why we are today beginning this peaceful campaign to force them out by public pressure so that the process of a fair elections can at last begin. There are lawyers and webs of deception, there are layers and webs of deception and deceit that we must unravel and reclaim our country. Kenyans in no way want to hold another very expensive election which will be rigged again. End of statement. By making courageous sacrifices, we have frequently